And my trail has brought me to the Nordic and snowy country of Sweden. Now, the country itself can't run anything because a country, like corporations, are nothing but a pile of papers. Oh, is that Danny, or is that Sandy behind me? Hang on one second. Hi, Sandy. Sandy is my cow. She's doing a lot of help researching these topics with me. Isn't that right, Sandy girl? Or I should say, Sandy Pants. So, with the help of some Swedish bears, I start looking into a family called the Wallenbergs. All right, so let's get into it. Who are these people? Well, we'll get to IKEA in a second. All right. Headquarters, Stockholm, Sweden. Which brings up a very interesting thought. Has anyone ever heard of something called Stockholm Syndrome? That's when you fall in love with your master, your captor. Which will bring us to the Bach saga before we were done with this little look here. Key people, Jacob Wallenberg, chair, and Marcus Wallenberg, vice chair, and Johan Forssell. Products, core private equity, operating and financial investments, 105.63 billion net income, 101 billion in 2019, total assets, 432 billion. Owner, the Wallenberg family. Number of employees, 72 total. 72 total employees, which is one family, and a very biblical number. What do they own exactly? Let's take a look. 1 second. All right, did I not put the ownership thing? Hang on, give me 1 second. I got it here. ABB provides electrification products, robotics and motion, industrial automation, power grids, pushing the industrial digitalization. By power grids, they mean they own or partially own just about every power grid in every country in the world. AstraZeneca, a global innovation-driven biopharmaceutical company. I think we've all heard of that. Atlas Copco. Electrolux. Sounds pretty simple. No one's ever heard of Electrolux. They just bought General Electric. All right. Ericsson. Oh, Ericsson doesn't sound very important. Ericsson owns all the infrastructure that the internet is based on, pretty much. And Apple and Facebook have to rent, have to give money to Ericsson to be on the internet. What else do they own? The NASDAQ. You know how there's like Dow Jones Industrial and the NASDAQ? One family owns the NASDAQ. And so what is their tie to America? So this is their family. They're tied to America. Oh, let's look at some more stuff. Just look at the country of Sweden. Sweden interests owned share in the IG Farben company in World War II, which then became Bayer and like a bunch of other companies. Sweden hid the patent IG Farben, stolen to World War II. Sweden is the top in terms of political murders in the world. Very sneaky stuff. We'll get into that. Sweden has the largest banking sector per capita in the world. Sweden has the most privately indebted population. Are you going over there? Because if you are, you can grab my hat.
Yeah, I will in just a little bit. I should go to the mailbox.
Okay, cool. I'm out. You can say hi to the people if you want in a minute.
I'll try.
You're looking very beautiful and very pregnant today. I want to show you off to the world. Sweden has the most privately... All right, Sweden's chief central bank is a member of the European Central Bank. All right, boring J stuff. Sweden is expected to be the world's first cashless country. Sweden introduced German schools with Hitler Oath. Sweden was the first to engage in racial biology. Now you might say, well, I took a look into the Wallenbergs and they actually were helping the Allies. Let's get the sneaky music back up. One brother was working with England and the other was working with me and Mr. Mustache so that they can consolidate the most amount of wealth and influence they possibly could. These guys are... One thing that I've had to work on since doing this is not admiring them. I know that sounds bad. It is kind of bad. Anyway, New Sweden was settled in America. By the way, their first central bank was in 1615. It was a Swedish colony along the lower reaches of the Delaware River in America in 1635. It's weird. What else is over there? I don't know. Washington, D.C.? Established during the 30 Years' War when Sweden was a great military power. New Sweden, let me just give a couple overviews. Sweden used to be a military power and then they just owned everybody. And I'm going to get into Norse mythology and all that stuff, but it's wild, guys. Sweden has a great... All right, New Sweden formed part of the Sweden efforts to colonize the America. Settlements were established on both sides of the Delaware Valley, often in places where Swedish traders had been visiting. And own everything. Think of what Stockholm Syndrome actually means. All right, is everybody's mind turning to gravy yet? I mean, I haven't even... All right. I just... someone wrote this to me. Search for Deep State on Google Maps. That's the Wallenberg's headquarters. The Swedish central bank is the oldest in the world, 1656. Wallenberg owns the energy company ABB that have built or partially built the power grids of most countries. Sweden, Wallenberg, supported the North with Panzer ships in the American Civil War. The Swede Oliver Carlson is also interesting. He founded the Young Communist League of America and infiltrated Hollywood. You are the first truther outside of Sweden I've ever heard talking about the Wallenbergs. Your roast of Sweden the other day was hilarious and spot on. Now let's get our super sneaky back on. 1 second. All right, so let's talk about the Swedes. I'm obsessing. Want to know who else was obsessed with the Swedes in Sweden? Norm Macdonald. Do you guys remember back in the day in Weekend Update, he used to talk about Swedish people in Sweden all the time. And no one knew why. I now know why. All right. What was I just about to say? All right. Let's move on. Let's continue. I hope everyone's mind is gravy. I'm going to check in with the chat real quick. Yes, he did. Obsessed with Sweden. What's the total population of Sweden? By the way, Sweden has already microchipped a lot of the people. And it's going to be the first cashless society. And it was the only country in the world who didn't have a lockdown. Population of Sweden. The Box Saga is, it's only 10 million total people in all of Sweden. And Sweden is the land closest to the Arctic Circle, which in Norse mythology is obviously the Tree of Life. Okay, let's continue. All right, now let's talk about the Swedish flagship of IKEA. So many people say, well, Big Bear, IKEA has done so much good for the world. Has it? When you look at the IKEA floor plan, it looks a lot like a psychological torture device. Oh, how dare you? No, it's so effective. No, it isn't. It's not effective. I actually think that IKEA has led to more divorces in the world than drugs, alcohol, and cheating. This maze that IKEA puts you in is impossible for a woman to resist buying a bunch of shit that they do not need. So what happens then? They get home. They get home, right? Everyone's getting home. And then they have to put it together with plans that emasculate the man. So now that the woman has bought something that absolutely makes absolutely no sense. Yeah, where is it again? Now that the floor plan has entrapped a woman whose eyes cannot avoid material items that they believe is inexpensive. Let's say you go get a dresser of drawers for $500 at a store. But at IKEA, it's only $350. But see, the thing they don't tell you is you have to put in between 100 and 200 hours of assembly. Which, you know, 100 hours of assembly is $2,000 worth of labor, earning $20 an hour. A lot of women are too dumb to understand this, so the dad or the husband just gets very resentful. And as he's putting it together and being emasculated because he doesn't understand how to tell any of the screws apart at all, he grows a deep hatred for his wife. Meanwhile, his wife doesn't realize that she didn't even want... Yeah, where are we? 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. That she didn't even want any of the shit she bought at IKEA. Oh, Big Bear, this is very comedic. I know it's comedic. I've literally done stand-up about fighting at IKEA. And I know it's funny. But is it funny when they start doing experiments on people? Oh, how dare you, Big Bear? Oh, really? Horse meat found in the IKEA meatballs. You think that's by accident? You think that in 2019, people just have so many horses lying around that they were just like, you want to know how we're going to save some money, Diane? No. The Wallenberg family and the Swedes are obsessed with seeing just how far they can push it. First, they trap you in a maze. Then they feed you horses without you even knowing it. And then they emasculate the man by telling them to put something together they're incapable of putting together. The entire savings gets completely eliminated in 3 hours of labor of putting it together. And then it doesn't work, and it's shitty anyway. That's pretty much the history of Sweden in a nutshell. Swedish chef was created to make them seem dopey and harmless. Exactly. Same with the Swedish fish. Look at this. By the way, Sandy's pissing right now a lot. The Swedish fish. Harmless. Until you realize it's the flag of Ethiopia. Do they still seem so harmless? It's pretty mind-blowing. An investor, fun fact, ABB, when it was just called ASEA, had a nice-looking logo with a swastika from when the company started in the late 1800s. Changed it in 33 for some reason. Yeah, because the swastika is just the Big Dipper going around the North Star, which you know if you live in Sweden. Here's the fascinating thing about them. Is they don't want any attention. This is what makes me so fascinated by these people. Well, the Vatican and all these guys... oh yeah, listen to this. It always amazes me how only we and Switzerland could be neutral in both World War I and II. Swedish culture is nowadays influenced heavy by feminism and multicultural shit. Yeah, I think they're trying to lower the population with feminism and IKEA, and I'm not joking. For those people that understand, like, you could just make aisles with shit on it. You don't have to make a maze. You don't have to make it impossible to put together. Our lineage of royalty, Wassa, was erased, and we now have a French family on the imaginary throne. We are outside of NATO, yet somehow in. The company Bofors made weapons and toothpaste, probably with a lot of fluoride, and is now in the medical industry. Best thing that ever happened to Sweden is probably COVID. People are slowly starting to wake up, even though most Swedes just want to be governed harder. We still think some drunk guy killed our Prime Minister, Olof Palme, for no reason at all. Strange country indeed. The beer still grows strong with some of us, though, and the country has a lot of unused territory. Basically, 2/3 of Sweden is uninhabited. Onwards. Yeah, some of my favorite people in the world are Swedish, by the way. All right, it was way older. I think the telecom in the world ran through Stockholm before telecom supposedly existed. Have some old pics somewhere. If you understand the truth about the approximate shape of the Earth, then you know running fiber cables underwater in the Northern Hemisphere, especially the northernmost part of it, is way easier than the Southern Hemisphere. Exactly. You know, it's the most expensive real estate in the world is right next to the stock exchange. Because the shorter the wire, literally the physical wire to like the computer, to the central hub, the faster you can do micro exchanges. So like if you live 100 feet versus 200 feet, you have an advantage in like, you know, micro exchanges that happen in the stock market. Most people don't realize that. It's like that competitive.